Hi, before we start this interview, I'm delighted to announce that the ADK Rock and Metal channel is actually going to be expanding into music promotion. And we are delighted to announce that our first three live showcases are going to be happening very soon. We're going to be hosting musical events at the 66 Bar in Cambridge, and we'd love you to come and join us and support these bands. Our aim is to really just find and discover and give a platform to the finest rock and metal bands in England and the wider UK. We're going to be predominantly basing the live venues in Hertfordshire, Cambridgeshire, and Bedfordshire, and perhaps other parts of the Greater London area.
The first event will take place at the 66 Bar in Cambridge, and that's going to be on the Thursday, the 18th of July. And we're going to be starting with two bands close to home. We're actually going to have Dave's band Teller's Scribe headlining the event, supported by the return of Nomadic Rain, of course, that is Andy's band, of which he is the rhythm guitar player. And they're going to be supported by another local band called Debris, who play an interesting mix of gothic, grunge, and even a bit of nu metal in there. So come on down on the 18th of July to see the Teller's Scribe headline show for the inaugural showcase of ADK Presents. The second event will take place on Thursday the 25th of July. Again, that's at the 66 Bar, and this is going to be headlined by Cambridge progressive metalcore heroes Far From Refuge, who will also be launching the new EP, and support comes from the Hertfordshire death grind band Extreme Death Art and the Cambridge power metal meets groove metal act Hereward. The third show in the calendar takes place on Friday the 27th of September, and that's going to be headlined by the hard-rocking groove metal band Lowdown, with support coming from Struck Down, Broken Calling, and Before the Sirens. And that takes place also at the 66 Bar in Cambridge. You can already pre-order your tickets. Just go to the ADK Rock and Metal Facebook page and you'll see the link in there.
Hi, welcome to the ADK Rock and Metal channel. My name is Kirk Horton, and today's guest, we've got two of the members of the Bristol post-metal progressive sludge quartet, URZAH, and with us today to talk through their new album, The Scorching Gaze, and to give us a bit more of a background of the band's origins are Tom McElveen, who's the lead guitar player, and we've also got... Here he is. He's put his hand up. Sorry about him. And we've also got Ed Furman, who's the vocalist in the band as well. So welcome to the channel, guys. I'm eager to get into this. I couldn't find much about the origins of the band. What bands were you in before you formed URZAH in 2019, and how did you come together in this project?
Tom, go for it.
So this is actually like my first kind of heavy music band, to be honest, that I've ever been in. So, when I was a kid, I liked punk music and stuff. And then I kind of transferred into playing, well, I've always used to play bass. I played bass in kind of like a dub band, sort of like a dub hip hop kind of thing at university. And then kind of out the back of that, I started playing guitar for kind of like a stoner rocky thing for a little bit, just once that sort of finished up. And that kind of sort of ignited my love for heavy music, really. I didn't really get into heavy music in any way until I was sort of in my mid-20s, really, because it always came from kind of like really like in Queens of Stone Age, wanting to be in kind of a stoner rocky thing. I was kind of like, felt like I kind of finished what I wanted to do with bass and was kind of eager to kind of pick up guitar with kind of more melodic stuff. So yeah, I was just kind of playing around with sort of down-tuned guitars and stuff. And then I met Ed, who had a similar idea, and that was that, really.
That's interesting, isn't it? Not many people would have that story. So your background is more dub and hip hop. And the first question is, how'd you go from that to wearing a Conan t-shirt? It's one hell of a journey.
I mean, it's all very low and slow, isn't it? It's all just very just super bassy, super heavy. So there is kind of a weird crossover, really. It was just, I just like things that really just punched you in the face, and like really kind of heavy, bassy dub stuff is like that. And then, just the Conan, it's been the first time I've heard that. It's like, God, that is just so like loud sounding. And I think the crossover kind of happened there, really.
See, that I'm surprised, because you said you started out as a bass player, and the guitar playing on this is really ambitious. So when did you start playing guitar? At what age?
Well, I kind of while I was playing bass, so I played bass when I was like 14 to my early 20s, and then I just decided to really stick to having a go at guitar. But I always kind of had an acoustic guitar, so I could kind of come up with ideas and stuff for the bands I was in, or just because to be a good bass player, you kind of got to be able to watch what a guitarist is doing and understand it to know kind of where you need to be and where you fit into what they're playing. So I'd always just kind of look at what they were playing and kind of pick it up and try and play it myself. And then after a while, just be like, oh, I can kind of figure out what to do on guitar and where sort of different patterns and scales and chords and stuff are. And then after a while, I was like, oh, I can kind of actually play this now. And I kind of quite enjoy it. And I kind of like to kind of stick to it, really.
Yeah, I want to pick up on that because if you said you used to play in a stoner rock band, there are no pentatonic blues in this music. You're playing some really dissonant, abstract chords. So I'm guessing you must have quite a good grasp of musical theory. Or are you just making those chords up? Because they sound really off the charts, really unusual.
Yeah, a little bit of both, really. So I suppose I did go to music college after I'd done sixth form. Went to music college for a year, and I kind of picked up quite a lot of theory and stuff there. And even though I've not really gone too hard on modes and scales and stuff, I have learned a fair few like bits and bobs in my time. And especially when you kind of go into sort of detuning stuff. So you're playing a lot of stuff in drop C. If you start with that C note and you start playing like E minor shapes, that's just a completely different sound to it. It's a completely different mode. So you kind of know a whole other mode without having to actually learn it. You just play, I'll play minor there, but then I've down tuned one, so the root note's that. So there's now it's a completely different thing. And after a while, you kind of just go, well, what if I do that? Then what if I swap out that note with that note? What does that sound like? And then that's another whole mode that you don't actually have to learn because all you've done is swap one note out. So it's just a lot of just experimentation, really.
You're right. E minor, that is the key, isn't it? Of
the
great thrash bands of the 80s, Metallica, Megadeth.
Yeah.
So, every song's in that key. Ed, what's your background? Can I make a guess? Hardcore?
It's a good guess. It can't be any far removed than Tom's response, to be honest. And we joke about this quite a lot because I love Tom's journey because it's like you've kind of unearthed your calling. I feel, Tom, fairly recently with heavy music, and it's like I wouldn't say it's new to you, but it's been somewhat newer in comparison to me. So it's really I wish I could kind of discover that at a later age because it was just like a beautiful moment for me. But yeah, mine's been a little bit more transitional over a long period of time. So yeah, I was in I loved punk and skater punk when I was really, really young. I used to be a bit of an outcast with quite a few of my friends, and we used to kind of go to grungy skater punk shows when I was 14, 15. I just loved the whole kind of culture, so very much kind of followed that through. And my kind of early 20s, I was involved in various projects. One of those being I met a friend at university, and we set up this kind of blackened kind of metalcore band. Really minor success. We basically met at university. We actually met through a flood. I remember it's pretty metal. Our university buildings had flooded, and we met together, my friend Doug, and he loved Pig Destroyer and just kind of Burnt by the Sun, some pretty abrasive stuff, and I was kind of leaning to that. We just kind of got together. We got on really well. He's been a long time friend of mine as well, and we set up this kind of little kind of black and metal project at university, and then we moved in together in Brighton, and we kind of we played around the UK. We did a few kind of tours and things. We've got a couple of records out.
What was the band name?
It was called Plague of Ashitaka. So we had this kind of I don't know if you've seen the film Princess Mononoke. It's a Ghibli film.
I haven't seen it, unfortunately.
It's a classic, but we kind of steered it around this kind of Japanese mythology and kind of anime and stuff like that. It was a silly little thing, but it had no relevance to anything that we were doing, but it was a bit of fun. So I was the front man for that band for quite a while. And we released a couple of EPs, nothing too kind of memorable, but it was good fun. And yeah, and then I basically, like, I lived in London for about 8-9 years, and I moved to Bristol probably about 5 years ago now, and I was just like, I just want to start something. I'm like, you know, my mid-30s, I want to kind of, it's my last shot at this kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like, and I remember putting out a Gumtree ad. Sounds a bit desperate, but it was just more of like, where do I go to like meet fellow metalheads when you've just kind of moved to a city and you don't know anyone? So I put a calling out on Gumtree saying just like, I got some riffs. Does anyone just want to get in a room with me and just see what comes of it? And you know, the beauty of that is that's the humble beginnings of URZAH essentially. We met through a Gumtree ad essentially. And we always joke about this when we get drunk and kind of laugh about it, but it's been quite a journey, and you know, here we are. It's been great. So yeah, it's kind of like a nice kind of mix of different people with different influences coming together, completely randomized, and then, you know, kind of forming what URZAH is now, really.
Tom, was Ed screaming with that level of intensity in the first rehearsal?
Yeah, not quite. It was a funny thing actually, because when we first started it, we did kind of look at being like, oh, kind of like a stoner rocky sort of psyche kind of band sort of thing. And then once Ed was like, oh, I can do vocals, started doing it, I was like, I don't think we're going to be able to go down the psych route. I think this is going to have to be and then then that was kind of how it took that direction, really. It was, we were like, well, we've got these riffs, they're cool, but like, we want Ed to do the vocals on them. It sounds wicked, so let's just make it really, really heavy. We can have nice bits in there here and there, but let's generally have it as kind of like a pummeling metal band, you know? And then that was the direction it took after a while.
Yeah, you're probably closer to Conjurer, aren't you, than if you said you wanted to start off probably in like a Queens of the Stone Age Chaos type sound. Yeah. But yeah, you seem to have gone towards Conjurer. It's quite unique, the album, though, The Scorching Gaze. We will talk about that for the viewers. So it came out on the 3rd of May. How did you land the deal with that APF Records then? Did you just send them a copy of the album and say, are you interested in releasing this? How did that come about, that deal?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, we just so we had it all recorded, it was all mastered, and then we just sent out some labels that we liked and that we thought aligned with us. Then we spoke to Andrew from APF, and that was kind of it, really. You know, we really thought that he really understood it. He seemed to really like it. We really liked him, and then we were just, you know, after our first meeting with him, we were just certain that we wanted to release it through APF really, and we just said, yeah, if you'd like to do it, we'd love to do it. So that was, it was as simple as that, really. Just a you know, an hour-long chat of just, you know, our interests just aligned, and yeah, you know, we were really happy about it. It was great. He was like, you know, up there with our top choices, so we couldn't have been happier with that result, really.
Yeah, I know that label for you know, that band Mastiff from Hull.
Yeah, sure.
They're on that label. They're a great band. Their album this year.
It was that album's so good. We had seen it recently. It was crazy.
Yeah, because they started off on the APF, didn't they? And there's also that band Battalions. They're good.
Yeah, super. There's loads of really cool bands on there. Yeah. It's a brilliant label. So like, for that reason.
So what did you have any? So let's think about this. It starts in a Gumtree advert. I just need to get into a room with someone and play some riffs. You know, you don't have any ambitions to conquer the world. You don't even know what the music's going to sound like. And then you put out this 2022. You've done 2 EPs, haven't you? You've one in 2020 and then one in 2022.
Yeah.
So you've already had the good 3 years of writing and independently recording music. So what reservations did you have about, you know, putting your foot into the formal music industry and signing a deal?
It's a good question. I've been quite, I don't want to say naive, because I'm not naive, and you know, I was kind of doing my due diligence previously around kind of like, you know, signing to labels and what they can offer, and actually like was leaning more towards not signing to a label because of the kind of complexities that can, you know, kind of unearth themselves. But I think that there's obviously a lot of really, really great benefits to signing to a label. Elevating, your kind of your vision, and promoting your music and your art can only be a good thing. And I think when we kind of shortlisted the labels that we were most interested in, obviously APF came up top in terms of just looking at the roster of bands. Speaks volumes. And as you mentioned, Mastiff, they've gone on to obviously MNKR. They've gone on to other pastures now, but the bands on their roster are very hardworking, quite independent artists, doing the kind of rounds around the UK, supporting quite big acts. We've kind of conversed with a few people from some of those bands as well, and they all had really good things to say about APF and Andrew at APF. And I think, I had my reservations signing to a label, but as Tom said, when we met Andrew and everything kind of clicked and came together, he was just so passionate about it, and all those reservations just kind of generally dissipated. I remember having a conversation with Tom after and just saying like what do you think? And he was like, this is just seems like such a great fit. And I kind of didn't kind of give my feedback until Tom gave his feedback, so I could see if there was any sync towards the two. And it was exactly how I felt. It's just like if this person, this label is going to kind of deliver what we need to on the album, it's going to be APF Records, and maybe a couple of others, but I think it just made sense after that kind of initial meeting. Andrew just got what we were doing. I think one of the things that resonated with me was he said he gets a lot of requests a week, right, to kind of sign to the label, as you naturally would, popular label. But he said yours was the one that I really just kind of focused in on it, and I went back to it multiple times. I couldn't stop listening to it, and as he got to the final track, which is Theora 2, which is just the kind of crunchy, heavy, muted down tune, mammoth of a song at the end, he was just like, I'm addicted to that song. It's just I just can't stop listening to it, and the journey to get there, and that was enough for me. You know what I mean? It's just he got it. He got exactly what we were trying to do. So digressing a little bit, but and a long-winded way of saying that, my reservations were pushed aside when we spoke to APF and Andrew there, because it just kind of made sense. And it's, I've been warned, signing to big labels that just kind of, they're there for profits. They're there to just kind of get you to churn out music as much as possible. But Andrew was very much fully in on the Scorching Gaze. He understood everything about what we were trying to do, and that was enough for us, I think. And when we recalled it back to the couple of members in URZAH, James obviously, and Les, they could feel the positivity from us. We weren't trying to kind of try and kind of get some camaraderie around the kind of the response, but it was just they could sense that it was the right decision, and that was that really.
Yeah, because you've already recorded the album, paid for it, mixed it, mastered it. So have they financed the vinyl pressing then? What's their involvement for this? Because you've already taken a finished product to them, the master tapes.
Yeah. So just a distribution thing with
distribution.
Yeah. So he's Andrew got all the physical copies and stuff printed, all the CDs and the tapes, got some t-shirts printed and stuff, helped us with the promotion of it and just put it out there really. And we actually having we've never had printed CDs or anything before. We've never had physical music, so to get a CD with the artwork on it and a tape and all that kind of thing was it was crazy really. It's this is so cool.
Yeah, I'm a CD man. I don't buy vinyl. Is it going to get a vinyl pressing though, this album?
It's a good question. I'd like to say we've had a few requests around it. If people request enough, then Andrew might kind of pull the strings. But I think for Andrew, obviously we are quite a new band. We're very much still in our infancy. I think we as you said, we have released a couple of EPs in the time of 4 years, but we really wanted to concentrate our efforts on an album. We were kind of edging towards a kind of a bigger release, and And yeah, but we're still kind of quite high risk. So, as an emerging kind of band, we don't have much to say. We haven't had any printed material, as Tom said. We haven't, kind of had any other label interest, just because we just haven't kind of, we haven't looked, to be signed really. We wanted to kind of wait for the right moment, I guess. And so, yeah, and, that in this kind of strange kind of climate with, how expensive things are, I totally understand that. Andrew was kind of just, proceeding with caution, but, with excitement as well. So we've kind of we've leveled a deal which is complementary to both of us, if that makes sense. But I think there's room for movement on how well the Scorching Gaze does, and if there's any other records that we're doing, obviously in the future, and there's a relationship opening there for us to work with him continuously, which is again a really good benefit to that he's obviously signed to the Scorching Gaze, but the opportunity to kind of feed more material and work together, and hopefully that might serve the purpose of getting the Scorching Gaze on vinyl, which would be fantastic. And we always kind of focused our efforts for it to be printed on vinyl. When we worked with Putra as well, who did the artwork for it, we said we'd like a bigger composition if we do press it on vinyl. That was all very much thought out, and we were even kind of mapping the tracks between side A and side B and how they would actually work. It's not about us kind of thinking, oh, we're going to get signed, we're going to get it printed on a vinyl, but it's just we just wanted this kind of storytelling piece, which obviously serves its purpose on a format like that, but also serves its format on a CD. And you totally nailed it. I mean, there's this resurgence of CDs now. Vinyl's quite expensive. There's a lot of long kind of turnarounds to kind of press it. It's getting more and more expensive. Beautiful pieces as kind of tangible art, but CDs, they're just like the unsung hero. They're just still a brilliant medium to listen to stuff. Even tape, right? Tape's kind of coming back around, and it's really awesome to see that. So again, another long-winded response, but we don't have it. We don't have the intention to press it on vinyl in the near future, but maybe there's the kind of some kind of conversations that we might be able to have with Andrew around kind of putting it out on vinyl, maybe a limited something. But yeah, it's cool that it's out on tape though. It's pretty cool to have it on a kind of archaic, antiquated but beautiful format. So yeah, so it's quite nice that we've got a little bit of the kind of the two there, the modern and the old, really.
Yeah, do I bought a CD today. I had to go to the dentist. I had some time to kill, so I went to HMV and I picked up the new Helmet album. You like Helmet album too,
oh yeah, massive Helmet fan.
I mean, look at that. Was £20.99, now £8.99.
That's a bargain. Is that the new Helmet?
Yeah, the one from last year.
That's right. Yeah,
solid album, because I've been streaming it for the last few months because I'm trying to get an interview with Paige Hamilton. Nice. To go through 7 albums. That 1992 record, Meantime.
Yep.
I wanted to pick 7 albums in my collection, CDs, that are influenced by that record, and talk to Paige about it. So it's an ongoing project. I'm trying to get him to.
Yeah, well, that's an awesome. I'll certainly be following your progress of that, because I'm a massive Helmet fan, and Meantime is a classic, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just and I've never really seen any interviews of him, but I know he's quite kind of an insular kind of person as well. He's it'd be really interesting to kind of get to the underbelly of Paige Hamilton and his kind of process, and and kind of what an awesome interview that'll be if you can get him down. He's doing so much stuff though as well, isn't he?
Film scores. In the late 90s, after they split, he ended up being David Bowie's guitar player, didn't he, as well? And
that's right. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Done some. He's had a good career. I think he dated Winona Ryder, didn't he, in the early 90s as well?
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, he's just a man of many faces, isn't he? It's crazy. Yeah. Insanely talented, and so many bands are influenced by kind of his Helmet. If I wasn't wearing an Unsane shirt, I'd be wearing my Helmet shirt. Just a massive fan of what they do and what they were doing in the 90s. So yeah definitely great band. Actually, let's talk about the Scorching Gaze. There's 3 tracks that I've picked out. All of them were great, but these 3 stood out for me
Tom, you've seen my notes on these. Actually, I let you into my way of thinking when I sent you a few questions just to structure this interview. So you've probably seen it's not stream of consciousness, but you've probably seen the notes. So I want to talk about track number 2 on the Scorching Gaze, and that's called Lacrima, Misery's Shadow, 5 minutes and 8 seconds long. And first thing I said there in the opening sentence, imaginative chord choices to go with that open string palm muting. Lock it into a groove, and then Ed tries to burst some of his eye vessels because his rage is so intense. It's like when you watch one of those horror films, in the veins, you're just like, God, something's gonna happen to his.
I feel like that sometimes.
Yeah. So and the bass is really loud, isn't it, in here? Do you have a permanent bass player?
Yeah.
Session.
Yeah. No, so our bass player, Lejet, who joined us last year. This is his first record with us.
Good. Yeah, and because you're wearing an Unsane t-shirt, Ed, that's one of the features of noise rock, isn't it? Where the bass will do a lot of the chugging.
Yeah, absolutely.
Action in that. Yeah, it's a bit proggy as well, though, isn't it? Tell us about that middle passage, Tom, where it settles down a bit after like 3 minutes of white hot rage.
Yeah. I mean, that bit, I think Ed had got a new pedal, the new slow pedal. So this is actually the oldest song on this album. And we'd got the first bit together. We were really happy with it. It was really kind of fast and loud. It's like a really good song to open with. And then Ed bought this slow pedal, and we were just playing around with it one day. And when we were trying to come up with that section, and then it was just like, oh God, it just sounded great. It's just a really nice reverby thing, and it just really filled it out. And then just stuck that over the top of like this kind of bass and drums groove. You just kind of, after the chaos at the start, wanted to just go into like a just bass and drums groove and just sit on that for a bit, and then just have this really nice pedal sound come over the top. And then in the early versions of it, our old bass player used to have this like weird sound he put over the top. Then he left, but the pedal that he had that he put that weird sound over the top left with him. So then I just had to like fill in that gap with just a weird little sound I made on my guitar. And then we just kind of would sit on that for a bit, make it a bit kind of creepy sounding, and then just slowly kind of build up into the next sections.
Ed, do you play guitar then on this record? Because you said the pedal loop, and you said when you started the band you had some riffs. Have you just abandoned guitar now? Are you just vocalist only?
Oh, I think he's frozen there.
Oh, it's frozen, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
You can answer that then, Tom. Does he? I didn't realize. Is he playing guitar or not?
Yeah. Ed plays guitar. Plays second guitar. We both play guitar since the very beginning. So
right.
Yeah, the two of us do it. We kind of share duties across the board. I might play a little bit more lead, but we both play lead parts, we both play rhythm parts, and we both write guitar parts for the whole thing.
I didn't realize. Because Encyclopedia Metallum just has Ed as the vocalist.
Really? No. We both play guitar on it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. See, that tells you, doesn't it? That's why this interview is essential, because there's not much out there. Hi, Ed. Welcome back.
Hey, sorry about that technical glitch.
I've just realised that you play guitar as well. I was saying that, according to Encyclopedia Metallum, you just do vocals. So I've already just learned something new there.
Yeah, they need to update their info. So I play guitar and vocals on for URZAH. Yeah.
Is that easy to do when you shredding your it's like you venting your spleen, to use that term, but it sounds like you're going to be coughing up blood. I can't imagine you won't be able to play like thrash or death metal with that level of projection, would you? I'm surprised, because I just think you'd need all the energy possible to be projecting your voice like that.
Yeah, it's been like a weird process, like a bit of a learning curve for me, because obviously in kind of previous bands and projects I've been a frontman, I've been like a lyricist, songwriter, and guitarist here and there, but not both at the same time. And that it in a live setting has been, obviously in a studio setting you can split those off, it's fine, it's manageable, but in a live setting it's been a learning curve for me. One that I think I'm still crafting to try and perfect, to the point where I don't want to kind of affect one or the other, and I'm kind of driving that power for both of them. So in the early days of URZAH, I probably wasn't kind of as good as I should have been, but I think now, kind of perfecting and crafting that live experience and having that power that we've really thrown out on the record and trying to kind of mirror that in a live setting, I think I've certainly got better. I mean, I don't know what Tom's kind of feedback on that is, but hopefully unbiased.
Glowing 10 out of 10 appraisal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like still a thing. It's still quite hard to do, but I can't remember. Was it someone from Caius said something around separating, like the perfect kind of middle ground is separating the two, so you're not actually focusing on either, right? So you're playing the music as you naturally would, but as vocals, was it John Garcia? I can't remember, but and then separating the vocals completely as well, and so they both come naturally together, if that makes sense. There's a bit of a kind of like a weird synergy between the two, but that's the sweet spot, and I think I'm slowly getting there. So yeah, in a live setting, it's a work in progress, but I think hopefully kind of getting there.
I think this. Sorry, go on, Tom. I'll let you.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's one of those things where it's like we never write music kind of around Ed being able to do both at the same time. We kind of just write parts that are just like as hard as we kind of want them to be, or as technical as we want them to be, and then we're just like, Ed will figure it out later. But it's one of those things. Once those songs are done, the necessity to play them is there. So Ed does just try until he can do it, and it's as simple as being like, we really want to play this live. He just puts the effort in, practices, and then the more you do it, the better it gets. And it's just been one of those things where it's like, oh, brilliant, this has worked out really well. Haven't had to sacrifice either thing. We write a song, we know all the parts, and eventually it will just come together and it works live. So it's been really great in that regard.
I get the impression that actually they're in Bristol, aren't they? Svalbard. So
yeah.
She's playing some challenging stuff on guitar when she's doing those vocals, and that band Pupil Slicer, Katie. Jesus Christ. I mean, she must be doing the same thing, writing it in the studio, not even thinking about how to play it live, and then like Ed having to figure it out. I'm guessing as long as you've got enough space between the different parts where there's no overlapping vocals, you'd be able to, it should be possible, shouldn't it? Unless you are like sweet picking your guitar when you're supposed to be screaming, then no human being can do that.
Yeah, impossible. Yeah, it's that's the thing. I think it's just like, I remember when we first we were writing I Empyrean, which is the first track off the Scorching Gaze, and I remember we were playing it, and I had some lyrics already kind of ready to go for that. It was a really great process of writing that song as well. But I really feared actually playing it live, and I remember we were in the practice room, and I was like, how the hell am I going to do this live? Like, I just like, it just feels like impossible. Like, that song is relentless. It never lets up. There's no break. There's a lot of like kind of technicalities in that song. If you listen closely, like there's, Russian circles, sludgy kind of like triplets in there. Then you've got like just the insane kind of like blackened kind of thrashy metal, I don't want to say metalcore, but just like, it's very intense, right? And I was just trying to wrap my head around like trying to do vocals and playing that live, and but just after a bit of homework and just nailing it, and just kind of just focusing and just trying to like separate the two so they kind of naturally come together, it just clicks. And it's just about practice makes perfect, right? It's just kind of the same kind of response as many people give. It's just nailing it and practicing it over and over again. And now I'm fearing for the new material that we're doing. It's like it's now a level up. So but the reassurance is that I was once feared, and now hopefully it should just be a matter of just trying to kind of nail it and doing my homework. And I remember I was like taking, which sounds a bit sad, but just kind of like taking demos into the shower and just like singing along with it and just having it repeated over and over and over again, and then just like trying to apply that whilst playing guitar as well. It's just it's kind of come together, which is good.
Yeah, you'll be relying on that term we hear a lot for your guitar muscle memory, so you don't have to think about it. Even the complex parts, won't you? You've got to master that without having to think about it. Although I wouldn't like to be in your position. If you're playing a show and the lights are off, having to fret those chords, they're not. It's not like you're playing power chords, is it?
No, it's like sometimes it's just like, and that's the separation thing. Like sometimes there's points where I played live and I'm like, I'm not even focusing on what I'm playing. It's just coming naturally, and then it's a strange kind of like sixth sense in a way. It's weird, and that's why I kind of like mention the sweet spot is just like when they both come together and it's consistent, it's great. It's really good. I want to get to that point where I'm not having to go like, oh, like it's here and it's here and it's here. It's like, natural. And again, it's just practicing. It seems to be working pretty well, which is really good.
Yeah, let's move on to track number 3, Immateria Noir. Probably my favorite song on the album. It's 7 minutes. Those guitar, I like that opening drum groove. I said that the opening drum groove, like Doberman dogs attacking a garden intruder. But yeah, it's kind of multi-dimensional as well, the aggression. It reminded me, have you heard of a band from Leicester called Vermin Throne?
Yeah, I have heard of them actually. I need to give them more of a listen, really. But yeah, they're cool.
They'd be good friends of yours. You should play. Yeah, I think you should. If you play in the East Midlands or even Milton Keynes, they'd be a good band for you to hook up with. Yeah, because obviously you're not influenced by them, but it reminded me of the same energy that they have. And when Cave-In, you'll probably remember this, Ed. Cave-In came back with an album, didn't they, in 2022? So this is what I wanted it to sound like. This song didn't quite live up to it for me. This is a surprise. There's a guitar solo in this as well, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah, it's actually 2 solos. So I do the first half of it, and Ed does the second half of it. So it actually sounds very similar, and pretty much everybody that's commented on it in reviews thinks it's one solo, but it's actually just me doing one part and then Ed doing the second part.
So what's it about lyrically? This song, or what is the overarching theme to The Scorching Gaze? Is it a concept album?
No, I wouldn't say it's a concept album necessarily. It's more of like just like a journey through life, really. A journey through life, like certain points are kind of points of life that I've identified, and a lot of it's points that Ed's identified. But it ultimately is sort of like a life cycle with just various points within it. And, sort of various historical references and kind of that volcano imagery that we really wanted to invoke, that we kind of both decided independently that was kind of where we wanted to go with it, was that sort of like volcanic kind of fiery imagery sort of ending and sort of throughout as well. But it's come from 2 completely different points, but kind of fused together in a way that create sort of one narrative.
Who wrote the lyrics for this song, Immateria Noir?
Ed.
I think it was predominantly me on that one. Sometimes Tom and I kind of co-write lyrics. Sometimes it's more me, sometimes it's more Tom. But yeah, Tom wrote the kind of majority of Immateria in terms of kind of guitar work, and I was writing these. Immateria is quite a nice break in the album, even though it kind of comes quite early on. It's quite like different to everything else on the album. Obviously the song structure is quite different, the kind of lyrical content's quite different. It's kind of there's a lot of like disparity and kind of like despair in the album, as Tom says, but it comes with like a kind of a journey throughout if you kind of read the lyrics a little bit more in detail, and hence why we included an inlay in the CD so people can actually kind of read it in detail. Immateria Noir is like multiple themes. I'm like highly kind of influenced by like fantasy novels and kind of like authors and sci-fi and dreams and all these kind of things, but also like metaphorical kind of notes in the songwriting as well, in the lyrics. I really like kind of fantastical concepts in quite like normal situations, if that makes sense. I've always kind of been like that. It was the same in my old band as well, and I really love that kind of creative writing. And you know, even just kind of recalling back earlier in the interview when reviewers were kind of unthreading some of the songs, and you know how what they kind of meant to them in kind of like, you know, in lyrical aspects, was like quite amazing to read back. Like, you know, just things that are quite personal to you wrapped in this kind of like fantastical environment, you know, of words. Actually, like, you know, other people are reading into that and like kind of, you know, picking those things out on quite a personal level, and I think that's like just really, really powerful. It's got lots of different things in it. It's actually about like finding like your soulmate or soulmates, or like those kind of connections in your life that are really, really meaningful, and just like burning together and just like, you know, burning back into the cosmos, which is like quite a nice break in what is quite, you know, goes through quite a lot of motions in the record, you know. And, you know, I kind of want, you know, don't want to kind of dive too much into that, because I think people bring out different things in the lyrics.
Yeah, you want it to remain, you want it to keep a certain mystique, don't you? So that
absolutely,
people
yeah,
can have their own interpretation.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, if we had like a longer conversation over, you know, a couple of pints, I'd be more than happy to kind of delve into that. But I know, you know, we don't have loads of time. All the songs mean different things to us, but I'm very candid about how I write. And, you know, I always share this with you know, with the rest of the band members in URZAH around, you know, what this means, and, you know, does that resonate with them? Because I think, you know, if we're playing this kind of music, it's not about me, it's about us, and it, you know, it's got to resonate with other people. So, you know, we are very candid when we write. We always share the lyrics out. Sometimes we tailor them and tweak them. But yeah, Immaterial was quite a nice, like, beautiful kind of connectivity between like Tom and I, and all the rest of the band as well, for sure, how we wrote. But Tom kind of wrote the song predominantly, and I kind of wrote the lyrics predominantly, and they just kind of crafted so well together. And that is pretty much, succinctly put, our writing process. It just happens so organically. We never try and force things. It just kind of happens. And, you know, we've never really, you know, there's always kind of like creative blocks that you get when you're in the practice room and writing and things that, you know, are challenging, but you know, it's being part of a band. But, you know, up to this point, it's been like a really, really amazing creative process working with, you know, all the other members as well, and how we kind of like craft songs. It's just been like, it's never been forceful. It's just like happened really on a natural basis. And I think that's, you know, long may it continue. You know, it's worked really well, I think.
Yeah, because the third and final song, track number 7, is it Terra 1, Sea of Flames?
Thera, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I there's abundant space to breathe in this music. Yeah, it's very claustrophobic. And I said in my review for Scream Blast Repeat, that's the paradox that entices you into its embrace. There's really great contrast there. I think I called it like astral doom metal with the aggression of the early Neurosis records. That's what I loved about it. And even though you're talking about life cycles, and almost, to me, I get the impression that it's like a journey towards enlightenment as well. And the shock and awe, the scorching gaze, is this monumental edifice which will blind you when you finally reach it. You know, that's as far as you can go. That's just my interpretation, just without even reading the lyrics. That's what it meant to me. But at the same time, there is a lot of you confronting demons and unburdening yourself. I thought, even of the strains and stresses of modern life. So, yeah, this is a really great song. You've got galloping drums in there as well. I love the 2 guitars playing away from each other. How did this song come into being then, track number 7? Because it's 9 minutes in length. So clearly you've put a lot of work into this.
Yeah, it was, I don't know, we knew that for the last couple of songs, we wanted to have like some real doomy bits. like some real slow stuff. You know, we really, that's kind of how we started off, and then we ended up moving away from it. But you know, we knew we wanted to go back to that kind of thing of just sort of just blasting out a nice chord and just having it ring out, and you know, have the character of the amp and the pedal or whatever's going on ring through, and I think creating that sort of wall of sound. And so we knew we wanted to do certain things with that kind of thing, because a lot of the rest of the album is very fast.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it just it was one of those things where we started off, we had one idea, and we had another few ideas. We didn't necessarily know what was going to go in the middle, and then we kind of figured out, like, oh, hang on, let's do something like this. This has just got enough room for Ed to be able to put some really cool vocals over the top. And then we kind of came up with the chorus of that song, which is quite unusual. It took us all a while to kind of get a grasp of. But it just lent itself as a really nice platform for some really super heavy, drawn out vocals, which is what we really wanted. But then for it to evolve at the end, have a cleaner part, and then build up into a real crescendo at the end. So that is definitely one of our favourites off. I think as a two-parter as well, with the second half as well. Yeah, we were just like, once we finished it, we were like, this is definitely the end. It's definitely the end of the life cycle. It's like this is the finisher. There was nowhere else it could really go. It had to be the finale.
Sounds like you probably want to play that live as the final track as well, promoting this record. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we play Thera 1 live, which is quite funny when we're kind of like doing a support slot somewhere, and we're looking at the set list, and we've got Thera 1 in there. It's nearly 10 minutes long, and it's like, okay, boys, well, we've got about space for 2 or 3 more tracks, and it's like it eats up a lot of the kind of set list. But we love playing it live. It's just like, as Tom kind of mentioned, it's certainly one of, I think, unanimously saying it's probably one of our favorites off the record. It's just got like everything, an amalgamation of different kind of guitar parts, and as Tom's kind of mentioned around like the space to breathe. It was really nice to just, for me to like set back and not be out of breath. Well, I'm still out of breath, but have these kind of moments of like driving the vocals and like longing out. Just I mean, like the first 2 sections of Thera in terms of its kind of lyrics are essentially like 10 words, but they're just like really driven out and longed out, and just to kind of drive that force of the song. It just works so perfectly when we put it together. Obviously it speeds up a little bit in terms of momentum at the end, but I think this touches on a lot of like the kind of earthen feel that we have as part of the band, and again, it's just naturally kind of crafted that way, that we fucking love volcanoes. We think like Mother Nature is incredible and also insanely destructive, and can be the end of all of us, and kind of dictates a lot of everything that we do, and makes things seem very menial, but also like quite beautiful as well. And like us as kind of human beings existing quite minute, but and like obviously an absolute spectacle. So we've got this kind of shared like love of like the kind of natural world, and like how great volcanoes are, and I certainly have a love and a drive for that. So that comes through in a little bit on those kind of 2 tracks, with obviously the as a metaphor as well, and also just like as an actual kind of physical form. So it was a nice track to kind of like sit back in and really kind of bask in a lot of those things I really wanted to like drive, that kind of earth and kind of lyrical content, have these like different kind of guitar parts, kind of softens out a little bit in the middle, and then kind of builds this crescendo. We call it the gallopy bit. It's kind of like the and it is so fun to play whenever we play. Yeah, whenever we play that, it's just like you can't help but just smile. It's just like a classic bit of metal songwriting. It's been done a few times for sure, but it's we've done it in our own way, and we put some like minors in there as well to make it quite interesting, and some sliding, and yeah, there's all sorts going on there, and then just kind of crushing at the end. It's just like, it's perfect. We're yet to kind of put 1 and 2 together. It's a bit of a monster ambition, but we're in talks around, putting it together, because I think it would just be a brilliant set ender, just kind of like going straight into the kind of palm muting of Thera 2, and then just this absolute crushing, end to the kind of set. I think it would just be great. But yeah, work in progress. It's a kind of a mammoth task, but we're getting there.
Yeah, because I've just got 2 more questions, and one of them leads on from that. But the first one, the female vocals that appear sporadically on this album, who's providing that respite, that sorrowful melody? Who's the woman who's contributed?
Yeah, so that's an old friend of mine, Eleanor. She is a very, very talented person. I've known her for a while, my time in London. And we were kind of talking around adding some different dynamics into some of the songs where we wanted it in kind of like perfectly placed positions. And we had a few names shortlisted. But the one that kind of resonated the strongest to me was Eleanor. I think Tom had met her a couple of times previously as well. She's just a great person, very positive, very talented. She was certainly the right fit. And as soon as she came into the studio to lay down the vocals, it wasn't pre-planned really. I think I wrote a Google Doc of like the kind of different parts of where we want her to kind of add her vocal layers on, but I think she kind of pretty much disregarded it in like the kind of best way possible. She's like, it's like, we can discuss this when I'm here, and we can kind of lay it down. And yeah, she nailed it, absolutely nailed it. It took her a few tries to kind of warm up, but yeah, she really added like a nice bit of kind of additional texture to the record. I think, we wanted it as kind of, spotted around a little bit on some of the tracks, but not like a kind of like a focused theme. It was just more of just adding it where it needed it. And I think having that in, even just like the spoken word in Lacrimaire was like just added a little bit of kind of like, just added kind of some interest to that part of the song. And, in terms of like the lyrics that were drawn up for it as well, it's perfect for her to kind of match what we had there. I remember she came in and Tom had an idea for the aesthetic, which leads into A.D.K. And I think like you kind of co-wrote a kind of, Tom's lyrics and Eleanor's kind of vocal patterns and stuff. You were just kind of together, and you just pretty much kind of made that together. I wasn't even there. I was in the pub. I had to like do some remote working, but I just left like Tom and Eleanor and James to their own advances. I'm sure Tom can probably kind of fill in on that.
Yeah, what song is that? Just remind me, Tom.
So that's the Aesthetic, which is the one just before A.D.K, which is kind of like the super clean track where Eleanor sings about.
Finger picking. Yeah.
It's a really, really good recording process. So I had the idea for how I wanted it to sound kind of ish. So it's kind of, a good amount of the way there. But then Eleanor came in, and, she's a brilliant singer, but even above that, she's a very, very talented musician, has a really good ear for melody. So I kind of sort of passed it over to her and Josh, our producer, who's also a fantastic musician, and they kind of, wrote out all of the vocal parts, like probably notation, and then just once it was all done, we were like, yeah, that's it. Eleanor went in, just recorded it, sounded great straight away. It was just like way better than I ever like imagined it would be, just in my head. It's like, oh god, yeah, I could really, really strongly recommend half writing a song and then handing it over to 2 much better musicians to finish off. It's great.
Shows that they understand your piece, doesn't it, as well? But that's what a compliment that is, that they've taken the bare bones of it. So you've written the song, and then they've taken it to places that even you didn't envisage. That must be quite a euphoric moment when it all comes together in a moment, like that.
Totally, it was super cool. And also, I knew we wanted to have some strings on it, and Luke, our friend from Frog Lord and Phantom Droid, came and played cello on that as well. So once we kind of had Eleanor's vocals on it with the kind of those sort of extra melodies that I hadn't really considered, and then the cello and Luke playing sort of the cello melodies on that as well, it just added all these different levels to it that I just hadn't even imagined it could sound in that way. It was really nice to be able to just hear that back and be like, yeah, great. That's so much better than I never thought it was going to come out as. Awesome.
Yeah. Last question then. So when are we going to be seeing you do a tour of the UK then? What are the plans for that? You know, you've got this great record out. What are your plans for promoting it? I always ask this at the end of the interview. What are you aiming to do to keep this record in people's consciousness? Because you've had all these great reviews, but it came out in April and there's another 8 months to go. So that album of the year, which I'm part for Screen Blast Repeat, I'll go through the calendar. You put it out in Q1, haven't you, of this year? Obviously, you didn't. That I'm sure that didn't come to mind. But what are you aiming to do to keep people's focus on it?
I think just kind of visit cities that we've not visited before, really. You know, we're gigging like pretty consistently. You know, we've got Cardiff next month. We've never been to before, and then we've got Newport. We're playing Stoomfest this year, which is wicked. You know, it's a really cool festival. We've always really wanted to play it, and we're lucky enough to be playing that this year. And then, you know, we'll be looking to play sort of some other places as well afterwards. You know, we really like to play Midlands, Birmingham, Leicester. We want to do North at some point as well. Go up to, you know, Manchester, Liverpool, Leeds. Just take it as far as we can, really, and just get in as many years as possible. That's the only plan we've got, really. Just when there's a gig opportunity or the opportunity to do a few gigs in a row in a certain area, you know, we'll take it and roll with it, really.
What about, you know, at this stage of your career, you've done your debut album. Take that London band, Earn. Are you familiar with their music? They'd be a good band to get on the road with. I think you go down well with their audience.
Yeah,
that's quite progressive as well. Their last album, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really cool. We went to see them actually when they toured that. It was great.
Yeah, I could see you on a bill with them. Yeah, that 2021 album. That was actually the Screen Blast Repeat album of the year, because I interviewed them around them. Yeah, because they've done really. They've supported Avatar and bands like that. They've been with like some of the larger international stadium bands, haven't they? Recently,
Yeah.
So there's no reason why you can't get, you know, that you can't make that next step for album number 2.
We're hoping.
Yeah. You're probably thinking, how do you want me to answer that?
Yeah.
Is that a question?
Yes, please. Where do we sign up? Yeah. I think, you know, next steps. I mean, you know, as Tom kind of mentioned, we've got a few really good gigs upcoming, but you know, we also don't want the south of the UK to get sick of us. You know, that we kind of like, you know, playing in every venue across Bristol. You know, I think we do want to kind of like, you know, spread our wings a little bit and go a little bit further up north, and you know, kind of explore some other, you know, parts of the UK where we could, you know, present our music and you know, I think, you know, that kind of proposition is exciting. You know, we're in talks about, you know, maybe doing like a kind of a mini tour towards the end of the year. I think the great thing about the Scorching Gaze is that, you know, there's a lot of different songs with you know, different structures, and you know, it makes for an interesting kind of change on the kind of set list. You know, we can do like a heavier, doomier, abrasive kind of set. We can do like a faster, thrashier kind of like, you know, grindier kind of you know, set, and then, you know, we can pull it in and do more of an ambient set, maybe mix them all together. So yeah, I mean, we want to promote the album and play it as much as possible, but we also have to be realistic with, you know, we've all got our kind of, you know, our normal boring day jobs and you know, commitments and things along with that, and it's just kind of like having a good middle ground that, you know, we can do the things that we love, but also, you know, the other commitments that we are less passionate about.
Gotta pay your mortgage, I'll pay the rent, haven't you?
Absolutely, that's it. Yeah, reality hits. So yeah, you know, it's a good you know, a good middle ground is doing like a kind of like a mini tour. So, you know, we really like doing weekenders, you know, Thursday to Sunday or something. Yeah. So yeah, we'd absolutely love to, like, you know, go up north and you know, do a run for like a mini tour later in the year, and there's kind of talks around maybe doing that. So hopefully we should be up that way towards the end of the year, fingers crossed. but yeah, we just kind of want to promote the album, maybe throw in a couple of older tracks for good measure, and yeah, kind of lean on that a little bit. We are writing our next album or next record, whatever that is. So we're already back in the practice room, and yeah, it's progressing surprisingly well already. We thought, oh, okay, let's just like have a break and just kind of play some of this stuff, but we're already not that we're ever going to forget about what we've just done, but in terms of like reaching beyond the Scorching Gaze and doing writing more material, it's coming really naturally, which is great. And yeah, so hopefully a new record, maybe in the near future. It's progressing really, really well. So yeah, writing, touring, trying to kind of balance everything together. It's it's been great though. Like off the back of releasing the Scorching Gaze, it's just like made us want to kind of do more of what we love, and kind of leaning into that a little bit more.
Excellent. It sounds like you've got that momentum, and you absolutely must not stop when you have that. If you know that what you're writing is just getting better and better, that's got to take priority, hasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
I think I said earlier on in the interview that the album came out in April. It didn't. It was actually the 3rd of May this year, 2024. So for our viewers, the Scorching Gaze, go on Bandcamp, or I guess go on the APF website or their Bandcamp page, CD and cassette, and then obviously it's available on all the streaming services because I had it on Deezer. So yeah, any what about the EPs? Did you say they're only digital only, aren't they? The first 2 EPs. Yeah. So people want to get behind the band, obviously go and buy the CD. I'm sure there'll be merch bundles, won't there, on Bandcamp as well?
Yeah.
Superb. Yeah. Well, thanks very much for joining us on the channel. I've no doubt that the Scorching Gaze will certainly make the top 50 albums of 2024 for our sister organisation, Scream Blast Repeat. But where's it going to be? Is it going to be in the top 10? There's a good chance. There is a good chance. It's definitely one of the contenders this year. I've no doubt about that. So, yeah, thanks for joining us on the channel, and hopefully I'll be able to see you live. I currently live in the southeast of England. So if you're up Hertfordshire way, Cambridgeshire, even Bedfordshire, then or obviously London, it'd be good to catch one of your shows. So yeah, thanks for joining us on the channel.
Nice one. Thanks so much for having us. It's really nice talking to you.
You're welcome.
Cheers, buddy.